The Associated Press is reporting new details about a major prisoner exchange between Russia and several Western countries. Turkish officials now telling the AP that two high-profile Americans, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, among others, are now free. I want to take you live to Ankara, Turkey. You're taking a live look at a Russian plane that for the past couple of hours has been on the tarmac at this international airport. This is from a Turkish radio and television corporation. It's the national public broadcaster of Turkey bringing us these pictures here in the United States this morning. It is believed that this is where the prisoner exchange has been taking place. It has been unclear which people have come off of this plane. You may notice the Russian flag on the tail of that plane. Once again, Turkish officials are now saying that Paul Whelan, who you see here, who has been serving a 16-year prison sentence in a Russian penal colony, is now free, as well as Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. He has been held in Russia since last year. He is also serving a 16-year sentence, both of them on their way, at least, out of Russia and free in what is a major prisoner exchange. Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez has been tracking this story over the past several hours since it broke. Really late yesterday, we started to hear about this. Maya, what are you learning at this hour?
Yeah, you know, Chris, if this comes through, it would be an unprecedented prisoner exchange, potentially the largest one since the end of the Cold War. We are talking potentially more than 20 people. And like you mentioned, one of those is Evan Gershkovich. We have talked about him quite often here at Scripps News. He is the Wall Street Journal reporter who has been held in Russia now for more than a year, convicted of espionage, charges that he, his employer, the Wall Street Journal, also denied, as well as the U.S. government. And of course, there's Paul Whelan, the former U.S. Marine, who has also been accused of espionage, and just like Gershkovich, was also sentenced to 16 years in a Russian penal colony. Whelan has so far served 5 years of that 16-year sentence. And there is also Alsu Kurmasheva. She's a reporter for Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty. Her accusation, rather, by Russia was that she had spoken out about the Russian military in a negative way, and that was because of her coverage of the Russia-Ukraine war. She is a dual citizen of the U.S. and Russia. She was convicted in July of spreading false information. Of course, that's always tricky in Russia because Russia does not necessarily acknowledge dual citizenship. Now, all of this started earlier this week when lawyers for several Russian political prisoners couldn't reach their clients. They went to the prisons. They wanted to see their clients, speak to their clients. Officials there said they could not. They did not know where they were. At this point, Paul Whelan's lawyer tried to get in touch with him. She could not either. His whereabouts were unknown. All of that began fueling the speculation that we could see a major prisoner swap. And then at the same time that all of that was happening, 5 Russians who were being held here in American prisons, who had been convicted on things like wire fraud and money laundering and selling and divulging U.S. tech secrets to the Russian military, their information disappeared from the database for the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. So again, that fueled even more speculation about a possible prisoner swap. But if this does come through, it all comes to pass, it would be a major diplomatic moment between the U.S. and the West, because again, it's involving the U.S., Russia, and several other countries, including Poland, Germany, and Slovenia, Chris.
And Maya, within the last half hour, we learned of one of the prisoners who was released in this swap, a Russian prisoner released back to the Russians from Germany. He was a convicted killer. What more do we know about him?
So this is Vladimir Kara-Murza. He is a convicted killer. He was accused in Germany and convicted of assassinating a Chechen rebel in broad daylight in a park in front of a children's playground in Berlin. Now, this was somebody who was very important to Vladimir Putin to get back into Russia. And a few months ago, we had heard that Kara-Murza might have been part of another potential prisoner exchange that would have involved Gershkovich and Paul Whelan and Alexei Navalny. But then Alexei Navalny, the Russian dissident politician who died at a penal colony, well, when that happened, that whole deal purportedly fell apart. That was according to people in Navalny's camp. But now it appears that he is part of this particular prisoner exchange and will be leaving Germany and heading back to Russia, Chris.
Global Affairs correspondent Maya Rodriguez for us live in Washington. Maya, thank you.